A lot of times I like to learn the smallest technical version of how to do something. Like with a font, how do you go from an image to something you can type with? Obviously, any craft has enough depth to be learning over a lifetime, but I'm always curious how you just do the literal thing. So this is me taking a very scrappy, beginner's mind approach to making fonts, which I just learned a day ago, only kind of looking up stuff when I got stuck. So my rough plan was to photograph some sketches I made, do some kind of cleanup in Photoshop, create vector files in Illustrator, and then somehow set up and export those from FontForge, which is an open source software that I learned about from like a search earlier and just kind of bookmarked, knowing that I wanted to learn how to make fonts. So let's get into it. Starting with sketches, I hand drew a bunch of letters and then I took photos of all the different pages that I had those on. Very simple photos, just like with my iPhone. Then I brought those into Photoshop, adjusted the rotation, I cut out the background, use Command L. Oh, by the way, this is all going to be Mac based, so sorry if you're using anything else. Command L to adjust the contrast on the letters, and then I use Select and Color Range to pull just the black Sharpie out. Once I had that, I pasted all of those individual pages into one big document so I could see everything side by side. And from there, I created new layers, and then I would trace the letters that I liked. So to trace those, I used the polygonal lasso tool. To make a positive selection, you're just using mouse clicks, and then you can hold down Option if you want to make a negative selection. So like in this case, cutting little parts out. And then I would select Modify and Smooth, and then I would smooth anywhere from 5 to 15 pixels. And then I would use the paint bucket tool to just fill it in with black. Sometimes I would have to do Select, Modify, Expand because the letters were a little like thinner than some of the other ones, and I would just expand that by whatever seemed appropriate. So once I had all of the letters that I liked filled in, I lined them all up next to each other just to kind of like size them up and sort of do my first like scale rotation, just kind of trying to make them uniform and using these guides that you can just pull down from the rulers to kind of size them up roughly. And then I copied that into a new document and exported a PNG. Okay, and then from there, we're moving on to Illustrator. And in Illustrator, my goal was to, one, take the letters and turn them into vectors, since it's just an image right now, and also to break them up into individual files, because I figured that's how the software would take them, just like one character at a time. So to start with, I opened up my image, clicked the artboard button to expand the artboard just so I could see what I was doing, and then clicked on the letters, hit Object, Image Trace, Make and Expand, and then right-clicked on the letters and hit Ungroup. So now I could access each of them individually. And then I started a new document and created 30 artboards because that's how many characters I had. And basically just started pasting each letter over one by one, scaling it up, and then using the guides to find the center point and adjust rotation and whatever else to kind of make them look uniform. And that was kind of my second major time to see how they were squaring up next to each other and adjust any sort of irregularities. From there, I just hit Export As and chose SVG, use artboards and all, and just exported the whole batch. Okay, cool. So now we're on to FontForge. So download FontForge, install it and all that. And then the first thing is just creating a new font and then hitting each of the individual characters and then going File, Import, and then finding your SVG that like corresponds with that character. There's probably an automatic way to do it, but I just did this manually, so it took me a little bit of time. So then from there, the next main thing to think about is sort of the spacing between all the letters. So you can go into metrics and new metrics window and type in whatever kind of words. And then in view, you probably want to like zoom out. And then I did like show grid partial. And you can grab these dividers between the letters and move them over in real time and see how they're relating to each other. And then you can also do metrics, center, and width. and then that centers it within those two brackets. And then I just kept writing a bunch of different words, and I would see how the letters looked next to each other, and I made adjustments and repeated that over and over till I felt like everything was blocked out pretty well. So now we're kind of in the home stretch. So the next thing you want to do is set a width for your spaces. And this is going to be the space between letters, and that's like this like diamond question mark looking thing. So when you have that selected, go to metrics and set width, and I put mine somewhere in like the 300 range. And then you can check out how that looks in a new metrics window if you want. And then for me, since I only had my uppercase letters, I copied all of those into the lowercase spaces, just so if you typed in lowercase, it would come up. And then one final thing is just going to element and font info and making sure to write in a font name. And then you go to new metrics window and generate fonts. And I chose OTF and generated that. I got a little error message saying errors detected. I generated it anyway. Then for me, on a Mac, I went to Go, holding down Option, opened up the library, went to the font folder, and then copied my font in. And that's it. Like, at least for this very basic understanding of how to make fonts. I called my font Castle Maze. I wanted it to be bold and irregular with a lot of interesting details on each of the characters. And yeah, I really liked how it came out, but it's also kind of fun just knowing that I know how to put a font together if I want to. It makes the idea of like custom fonts for various things like films or like title sequences or music videos feel like way more achievable. And yeah, and I already have like ideas for another font that I want to make. Anyway, good luck making your fonts. Hope you had a chill time, and I'll see you around.